In the summer of 1977, the winds of change swept through China's countryside, carrying whispers of hope and ambition. The college entrance exams, dormant for a decade under the Cultural Revolution, were reinstated, promising a path out of rural toil for the brightest minds. For me, Sophie, a girl of 18 in a remote Henan village, that promise was a distant dream, tethered to a single piece of paper, a recommendation letter earned through my parents' sacrifice. My parents, both soldiers, died in a border skirmish when I was 10, leaving me an orphan with a legacy of honor. The government, in gratitude, issued a rare privilege, a recommendation letter guaranteeing university admission without the need for exams. In an era where higher education was a golden ticket to a better life, this letter was my inheritance, a beacon of possibility in a world of mud and hardship. But I was young, grieving, and naive, and I entrusted it to the one person I believed would cherish me as my parents had, Daniel Hart, my fiancé. Daniel arrived in our village 3 years earlier, and a city boy was sent to the countryside during the youth relocation years. He was 20, charming, with eyes that sparkled with dreams of greatness. His parents, the Harts, took me in after my parents' death, their kindness a balm to my loss. "You're family now, Sophie," Mrs. Hart would say, slipping me an extra dumpling at dinner. Daniel, too, seemed devoted, holding my hand under the willow tree, promising a future together. "We'll build a life, Sophie," he vowed, "you and me, side by side." I believed him, my heart too full of love to see the cracks in his sincerity. When the news of the exam reinstatement broke, the village buzzed with excitement. For Daniel, it was a chance to return to the city, to shed the dust of rural life. But for me, it meant the letter, my parents' final gift, could change everything. I shared my hopes with Daniel, expecting him to rejoice. Instead, his face tightened. "Sophie," he said, his voice clipped, "we're from different worlds now. The exams are my ticket out. I can't stay tied to this village, or you." The words cut deeper than any blade. As he continued, I stood in the courtyard, the summer heat pressing against my skin. "The recommendation letter," he said, avoiding my eyes. "I lost it. It's gone." I begged him to explain, to search for it, but he turned away, his silhouette fading into the dusk. The hearts, once warm, grew distant, their smiles replaced by sighs. "You'll be fine, Sophie," Mr. Hart muttered. "You're strong." But I wasn't. I was broken, stripped of my future and left with nothing but the fields. With no letter, education, or family, I had no choice but to stay. I spent decades facing the soil, my hands calloused, my back bent under the weight of endless harvests. Once a community place, the village became a prison of routine: plant, sow, reap, repeat. My youth withered, my dreams buried beneath layers of earth and sorrow. The Harts left for the city soon after, Daniel's name fading into rumors of success. I heard he'd become a professor, married and prosperous. I envied him, but I never hated him. Love, even betrayed, lingers like a stubborn weed. At 70, my body was frail, but my spirit was unbroken. I stood by the village well, drawing water as I had for decades. A sleek car rolled through the dirt paths, an anomaly in our rustic world. Daniel stepped out, gray-haired but unmistakable, his suit crisp against the faded backdrop. Beside him was a woman, elegant in a silk dress, her poise contrasting with my worn cotton smock. The villagers gathered, curious. An older man, leaning on his cane, pointed at her. "Emily Lou," he said, "if it weren't for Sophie's parents' recommendation letter, you wouldn't be living so grand. Pay your respects at their graves." The name hit me like a stone. Emily Lou, the village secretary's daughter, who'd always flaunted her, bought a high school diploma. My Sophie was the only one in the village whose parents had died young and whose letter had been lost. The woman beside Daniel was no stranger. She was the thief who'd stolen my future. My chest tightened, a sharp pain radiating through me. The bucket slipped from my hands, splashing into the well. The world spun, and darkness swallowed me whole. My last thought was of that letter, my parents' blood-inked legacy, now adorning another's life. I awoke with a gasp, my chest heaving as if I'd been pulled from the depths of the village well. The air was thick with the scent of earth and summer blooms, not the stale musk of my elderly years. My hands, trembling, were smooth, unmarred by decades of toil. I was in my old bed, the straw mattress creaking beneath me, in the crumbling mud brick house I'd called home at 18. The year was 1977, when Daniel Hart returned to our Henan village, his shadow looming over my past life's ruin. A flood of memories crashed through me, vivid, unrelenting, as if fate had unspooled my previous existence and rewound it. I saw my parents' faces and proud smiles as they left for the border, never returning. I felt the weight of the recommendation letter, a government-issued privilege for their sacrifice, guaranteeing me a university spot in China that was reborn with the college entrance exams. I relived Daniel's betrayal, cold dismissal, and the lie that the letter was lost. I saw Emily Lou draped in silk, her elegance built on my stolen future. And I remembered the pain, the darkness that swallowed me at 70 when the truth of her theft pierced my heart. This was no dream. I was reborn, granted a second chance by some cosmic mercy. My past life's sorrows sharpened into clarity. Every promise Daniel broke, every kindness the hearts feigned, every opportunity Emily snatched. The recommendation letter, my parents' blood-inked legacy, burned in my mind. It was more than paper, it was my birthright, a key to escape the fields and honor my parents' sacrifice. In my first life, I'd been naive, trusting love over instinct. This time, I would be different. I would reclaim what was mine and ensure those who betrayed me faced their karma. I rose, my legs steady despite the shock. The village outside hummed with the same restless energy I'd known decades ago. The reinstatement of the college entrance exams had set tongues wagging. Sons and daughters dreamed of city lives while parents bartered futures over grain sacks. For me, the exams were irrelevant. The letter was my path. But Daniel, with his city education and silver tongue, would try to steal it again, just as he had before. And Emily, the village secretary's spoiled daughter, would be his accomplice, her ambition cloaked in elegance. I stepped into the courtyard, the summer sun glaring down. My patched cotton dress clung to my skin, a reminder of my poverty, but my heart thrummed with purpose. I was no longer the grieving girl who'd clung to Daniel's promises. My past life's knowledge was a weapon, my resolve a shield. I knew their moves, Daniel's charm, Emily's schemes, the heart's greed. This time, I would outplay them all. Voices drifted from the village square. I followed, my bare feet silent on the dirt path. A crowd had gathered, their murmurs buzzing like flies. At the center stood Daniel, his city suit crisp against the villagers' faded tunics. His hair was neatly combed, his smile practiced, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. Beside him was Emily, her silk scarf fluttering, her poise a calculated performance. She clung to his arm, her gaze darting to the crowd, seeking admiration. The sight of them, so familiar yet so vile, sent a chill through me. The villagers parted as I approached, their whispers trailing me. Sophie, the orphan girl, they muttered their pity, a blade I'd endured too long. Daniel's eyes met mine, and for a moment time folded. His betrayal in my past life echoed in the curl of his lip. He opened his mouth, no doubt repeating the words that had shattered me. But I was not that Sophie anymore. My steady and clear voice cut through the air before he could speak. "Daniel, I said we need to talk about the recommendation letter." The crowd hushed, eyes widening. Emily's smile faltered, her fingers tightening on Daniel's arm. He blinked, caught off guard, his charm slipping like sand. I stood tall, my past life's pain fueling my courage. This was the moment, my rebirth's first strike. I would demand my letter, expose their deceit, and set their downfall in motion. The game had begun, and this time I would win. The summer sun blazed over our Henan village in 1977, its heat pressing down on the crowded square like a judgment. I stood at the edge of the gathering, my patched cotton dress clinging to my skin, my heart a drumbeat of resolve. Daniel Hart, the city-educated golden boy, held court at the center, his suit contrasting with the villagers' faded tunics. Beside him, Emily Lou preened, her silk scarf a flaunt of ambition, her arm looped through his with possessive grace. The villagers buzzed with awe, but I saw through their masks. Daniel's charm was a veneer, Emily's elegance a lie. My past life's memories burned. They had stolen my parents' recommendation letter, my ticket to a future beyond the fields. Today, I would take the first step to reclaim it. Daniel's eyes found me, and a flicker of unease crossed his face as if my presence disrupted his script. He cleared his throat, addressing the crowd, but aiming his words at me. He said the college entrance exams are back, his voice smooth as polished stone. It's time for me to return to the city to build a life worthy of my education. He paused, his gaze hardening. Sophie, we need to be clear. We're from different worlds. I agreed to our engagement out of pity because our parents were close, but now, with the exams, I can't throw my future away for this village or you. The words echoed from my past life, each syllable a blade. The crowd murmured, their pitying glances stinging my pride. Emily's lips curved into a smug smile, her fingers tightening on Daniel's arm. In my first life, I'd crumbled, begging him to reconsider, my tears useless against his ambition. But rebirth had forged me anew. My past life knowledge was a map of his deceit. He'd taken my recommendation letter, a rare privilege earned by my parents' military sacrifice, claiming it was lost while promising me marriage. I wouldn't let him rewrite that betrayal. I stepped forward, my bare feet firm on the dirt. The villagers hushed, sensing a shift. Daniel, I said, my voice clear and unyielding, if you want to end our engagement, fine. But give me back the recommendation letter. The square fell silent, eyes darting between us. The letter, a government-issued guarantee of university admission, was a treasure in 1977 when exams were a brutal gatekeeper. For me, an orphan of heroes, it was my parents' legacy, their blood exchanged for my future. Daniel knew its worth, and so did Emily, whose panicked glance betrayed her stake. Daniel froze, his confidence cracking like thin ice. The letter? He stammered, his charm faltering. I told you it's lost. His lie was the same, but this time, I was ready. I crossed my arms, my gaze piercing. Lost? You begged me for it, Daniel. You said it was wasted on someone like me, who didn't understand academics. You promised to marry me if I gave it to you. The Harts swore I'd be their daughter-in-law. Now you're breaking that promise, so give it back. The crowd stirred, whispers rippling like wind through wheat. Her parents died for that letter, an older woman muttered. The Harts took her in? Were they after it all along? Emily stepped forward, her voice sharp. Sophie, don't be shameless. The Harts cared for you for years. You can't demand the letter like you're owed it. Her indignation was a performance, but I saw the fear in her eyes. Emily, the village secretary's daughter, had no grades to pass the exams. The letter was her only path to college, and she'd schemed with Daniel to claim it. I turned to Daniel, ignoring her. I said you made a promise in front of everyone, my voice rising. My parents died serving this country. That letter is their blood, their sacrifice. You don't get to keep it and walk away. The villagers' murmurs grew louder, their sympathy shifting. A man spat into the dust. It sounds like the Hart boy used her. Daniel's face reddened, his hands clenching. Sophie, stop this, he snapped. I pitied you, nothing more. Don't cling to me like a parasite. The insult stung, but I stood taller, my past life's pain fueling my fire. A parasite? I said, my tone icy. Then why did you take the letter? Why did your parents put their silver bracelet on my wrist, calling me family? If you're so noble, return what's mine. Emily tugged at Daniel's sleeve, her voice low but urgent. Don't let her make a scene, she hissed. But it was too late. The crowd's eyes were on Daniel, their doubt a weight he couldn't shake. I took another step, my voice cutting through the tension. You can't, can you? Because you never lost it. You planned to use it, or give it to her. I nodded at Emily, whose face paled. The accusation hung in the air, a spark ready to ignite. Daniel's jaw tightened, his eyes darting to the crowd, then back to me. He was trapped, his lies exposed under the village's gaze. I saw fear in him for the first time. The fear of a man whose perfect plan was unraveling. The square crackled with anticipation, every eye on Daniel's next move. I stood firm, my heart steady, my rebirth's purpose clear. This was only the beginning. I would reclaim my letter, tear down their deceit, and make them pay for every stolen dream. The battle had just begun, and I was no longer the girl they could betray. The Henan village square pulsed with tension under the 1977 summer sun, the air thick with dust and suspicion. I faced Daniel Hart, my voice still echoing from my demand for the recommendation letter, my parents' blood-earned legacy, a rare privilege guaranteeing university admission in China reborn with college exams. His lie that the letter was lost hung between us, exposed by my accusation that he'd planned to give it to Emily Liu. The crowd's murmurs grew sharper, their eyes pinning Daniel as his charm crumbled. Emily, her silk scarf a frail shield, stepped forward, her face a mask of indignation. But I, reborn with the knowledge of my past life's betrayals, was ready to turn their deceit against them. Emily's voice cut through the silence, shrill and rehearsed. Sophie, how dare you? The Harts took you in, fed you, clothed you for 6 years. You owe them, and now you demand the letter like some ungrateful leech? Her words were a calculated strike, painting me as the villain. The villagers stirred, some nodding, their memories of the Harts' supposed kindness clouding their judgment. In my first life, I'd shrunk under such accusations, my grief and love for Daniel silencing me. But Rebirth had honed my instincts. I knew the truth. The Hart's generosity was a facade built on my parents' sacrifice. I met Emily's glare, my heart steady, my past life memories a blazing guide. Kindness? I said, my voice calm but razor sharp. Let's talk about that. Daniel, why don't you tell everyone where your family got the money for your mother's new dresses every month, or your father's hand-rolled tobacco, or your fancy city books? The crowd hushed, heads turning to Daniel, his face paled, his hands twitching at his sides. Emily's smile faltered, her eyes darting to him for rescue. I pressed on, my words deliberate, each one a stone in their crumbling defense. My parents died serving this country. The government sends their pension, hundreds of yuan, to the Hart's account every year. I was 13 when they took me in, too young to manage it. That money didn't just feed me, it fed your whole family, Daniel. In 1977, when most earn a few dozen yuan a month, how does a factory worker like your father afford luxuries? How does your mother, who never works, wear silk while I patch my clothes? The square erupted in whispers, the villagers' faces shifting from pity to shock. Her parents' pension? An older man muttered. That's no small sum. A woman frowned, her basket slipping. The Harts lived better than most. New roof, meat every week. Was it all her money? Daniel's eyes darted, his lips parting, but no words coming. Emily stepped closer to him, her voice rising. You were a child, Sophie. You couldn't have handled that money. The Harts sheltered you and raised you like their own. You should be grateful, not throwing accusations. Her defiance was desperate, a spark in a storm. I turned to the crowd, my voice steady but laced with pain. Grateful? For what? For taking my parents' blood money and calling it charity? For promising me marriage while planning to steal my future? I looked at Daniel, my gaze unyielding. You begged for that recommendation letter and said it was wasted on me. Your parents put their silver bracelet on my wrist and swore I'd be their daughter-in-law. Was that all a lie to get the pension, too? The villagers' murmurs grew louder, their doubt a tide turning against the Harts. A young man spat into the dirt. Sounds like they used her from the start. An auntie clutched her shawl, whispering, her parents were heroes. Shame on them. Daniel's face burned red, his hands clenching into fists. Enough, Sophie, he snapped. You're twisting everything. My family helped you out of kindness, not for money. Stop this nonsense about the letter. But his anger only fueled the crowd's suspicion. I took a step closer, my voice low but piercing. If it was kindness, why won't you return the letter? My parents died for it, Daniel. It's mine, not yours to lose or give away. I glanced at Emily, whose panic was plain, her fingers digging into Daniel's arm. Or did you already promise it to someone else? The accusation landed like a thunderclap, the crowd's eyes narrowing on Emily. Her elegance, once admired, now seemed suspect, her presence beside Daniel a silent confession. Emily's voice trembled, but she forced a smile. You're delusional, Sophie. Daniel's a top student, he doesn't need your letter. Stop making a fool of yourself. But her words rang hollow, her fear betraying her. The villagers' whispers turned to murmurs of agreement with me, their faith in the Harts eroding. Daniel, cornered, looked to the crowd, then back at me, his eyes flashing with something new. Fear, not of me, but of the truth unraveling. I stood tall, my rebirth's purpose blazing within. My parents' pension had been my past life's unspoken burden. Now it was my weapon. The square crackled with anticipation, the villagers waiting for Daniel's response. I had exposed their greed and planted doubt in every heart. This was no longer about the letter alone. It was about justice, about tearing down the lies that had stolen my first life. Daniel's next move would seal his fate, and I was ready. The Henan village square simmered under the relentless 1977 sun, the air taut with the aftershock of my revelation. I had exposed the heart's greed, revealing how my parents' pension, hundreds of yuan meant for me, an orphan of military heroes, had funded their comfortable life. The recommendation letter, a rare privilege guaranteeing university admission, remained the heart of our clash. Daniel Hart stood before me, his city-bred confidence shattered, his lie about losing the letter unraveling under the villagers' skeptical gazes. Emily Liu, her silk scarf wilting in the heat, clung to his arm, her elegance crumbling into desperation. My rebirth's clarity, forged from a past life of betrayal, guided me. I had turned their deceit against them, and now I would push for victory. Emily's voice broke the tense silence, her tone sharp but unsteady. "Sophie, you're twisting the truth. The Harts raised you like their own. You can't demand the letter and slander them." Her words aimed to rally the crowd, but the villagers' murmurs were no longer in her favor. My accusation, that Daniel planned to give my letter to her, had planted seeds of doubt. An older man leaned on his cane, muttering, "Her parents' blood paid for that letter." "It's not right." I seized the moment, my past life knowledge a blade honed for this fight. I stepped closer, my voice steady but laced with calculated pain. "Slander? My parents died for this country, Emily. Their pension fed the Harts while I patched my clothes. They promised me marriage, swore I'd be family, all to get that letter. Now Daniel wants to walk away, keeping what's mine?" I let my voice crack, my eyes glistening with unshed tears. In my first life, I'd been too proud to show weakness, but rebirth taught me vulnerability could be a weapon. The crowd softened, their faces reflecting guilt and sympathy. A woman whispered, "Poor girl, used like that." Daniel's jaw tightened, his eyes darting to the crowd, then to Emily, whose panic was plain. "Sophie, stop this," he snapped, his voice fraying. "You're making a scene. My family helped you out of kindness, not for your money or letter." But his defiance rang hollow, his earlier admission of pity exposing his motives. The villagers' doubt grew, their whispers a rising tide. "If it's kindness, why not give her the letter?" A young man called. Daniel flinched, cornered by the truth I'd laid bare. Emily tugged at his sleeve, her voice low but urgent. "Don't let her manipulate everyone, Daniel. She's jealous, that's all." Her accusation was a desperate grasp, but only fueled the crowd's scrutiny. I turned to the villagers. My tone was soft yet piercing. "Jealous? Of what? A man who breaks promises? A family who took my parents' blood money and now calls me ungrateful? All I want is what's mine, the letter my parents died for." I paused, letting a single tear fall, my past life pain channeled into this performance. The crowd's murmurs turned to nods, their allegiance shifting. A deep voice rumbled from the back of the square. Enough of this. The village chief, a grizzled man with a stern face, pushed through the crowd. His presence commanded silence, his authority rooted in years of mediating disputes. "Sophie's right," he said, his eyes on Daniel. "Her parents were heroes. That letter's her birthright. If you're ending the engagement, Hart boy, you've got no claim to it." He turned to the crowd. "The exams are back. Daniel's a bright lad. He can pass them himself. Why is he holding on to her letter?" The chief's words were a hammer striking at Daniel's facade. The villagers murmured agreement, their voices a chorus of justice. "Give it back!" an auntie shouted. Daniel's face burned red, his hands clenching. Emily's eyes widened, her grip on his arm tightening. "Daniel, you can't," she hissed, her voice betraying her stake. My past life memories flashed. Emily, with her bought diploma and no grades, needed the letter to escape the village. She was the thief, and Daniel her enabler. I pressed the advantage, my voice firm. "If you lost it, Daniel, say so now, but if you have it, return it. My parents' sacrifice isn't yours to trade." The crowd leaned in, waiting. Daniel's eyes darted to his parents, who had just arrived, breathless and flustered. Mr. Hart, his face a mask of forced calm, stepped forward. "Sophie, let's not air this in public," he said, his voice strained. "We'll sort it out. The letter. We'll find it." Mrs. Hart nodded, her smile tight. "You're like our daughter, dear. We'll make this right." Their words were a lifeline, but their hesitation screamed deceit. They'd promised the same in my first life, only to vanish with the letter. My rebirth's clarity saw through them. They were stalling, likely planning to forge a fake or hand the real one to Emily. I nodded, my face softening, but my heart was cold. "Thank you," I said, my tone meek. "I trust you'll return it soon." The crowd sighed, some satisfied, others skeptical. The chief crossed his arms. See that you do, Hart. This village won't stand for injustice. Daniel forced a nod, his eyes avoiding mine. Emily's face was a storm of panic, her elegance unraveling. The villagers began to disperse, their murmurs trailing like smoke. I stood still, my victory fragile but real. I had swayed the crowd, cornered the Harts, and set the stage for their downfall. But the Harts' pause, their too quick promises, told me the letter wasn't lost. It was hidden, and they'd fight to keep it. My rebirth's purpose burned brighter. This was only the beginning of their reckoning. The Henan village square emptied as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the dirt paths of 1977. The crowd had dispersed, satisfied by the Hart's promise to return my recommendation letter, the rare privilege earned by my parents' military sacrifice, a golden key to university in China reborn with college exams. I clutched the envelope Daniel had handed me, its weight a fragile victory won through my calculated tears and the village chief's stern words. But as I walked back to my mud brick house, my rebirth's clarity whispered caution. In my past life, the Hart's kindness had been a lie, their promises dust. I wouldn't trust them now. Inside, I lit a single candle, its flicker dancing on the cracked walls. My heart thudded as I sat on the straw mattress, the envelope trembling. The recommendation letter was my parents' legacy. Their blood was exchanged for my future at a time when education was a rare escape from the fields. Daniel's hesitation, Emily's panic, and the Hart's too quick assurances gnawed at me. Sharp as a blade, my past life memories recalled their betrayal. The letter was never lost but stolen, given to Emily to claim a life that should have been mine. I had to know if they'd dared to deceive me again. I slid a knife under the envelope's seal, my fingers steady despite the pulse in my throat. The wax parted, revealing a single sheet. I unfolded it, my eyes scanning the official script, the government stamp, and the signature of the regional officer. At first glance, it seemed authentic, a ticket to a university far from this village. But something was off. The ink glistened, too fresh for a document issued years ago. The handwriting, though precise, carried a familiar slant. Daniel's, not the officer's. I'd known his script from love letters scrawled under the willow tree, promises now as false as this paper. My breath caught, rage surging like a storm. The letter was a forgery, crafted in haste to silence me. I rechecked the seal. It had been tampered with, and the wax reapplied clumsily. My past life knowledge pieced it together. The college exam policy had resumed just yesterday, and Daniel, ever cunning, must have forged this the same day, expecting my naivety to blind me. He'd returned a fake, keeping the real letter, my parents' blood-inked birthright, for Emily, whose lack of grades made her desperate for its power. I gripped the paper, my knuckles white, the candle's flames swaying as if mirroring my fury. In my first life, I'd accepted Daniel's lie, spending decades in the fields while he and Emily soared. Rebirth had given me this chance to rewrite that fate, and they dared to steal from me again. With her bought diploma and scheming heart, Emily was the actual beneficiary, her elegance a mask for greed. Daniel, once my love, was her accomplice, his betrayal a wound that no longer bled but burned. I paced the small room, my mind racing. The Hart's promise in the square had been a performance, their hesitation a tell. They'd likely hidden the real letter, planning to pass it to Emily while I held this worthless duplicate. The village chief's warning and the crowd's pressure had forced their hand, but they'd gambled on my trust. My past life pain fueled my resolve. I wouldn't confront them yet. A public outburst would make me seem petty, and they'd claim the forgery was a mistake. No, I needed proof, a plan to expose their deceit and ensure they paid. I sat by the candle, my rage cooling into determination. My rebirth's gift wasn't just a second chance, it was knowledge, a map of their lies. I remembered Daniel's habits. His textbooks, always neatly stacked, were his pride, a likely hiding place for the real letter. Emily's desperation in the square, her grip on Daniel's arm, confirmed her stake. She'd push him to secure the letter, to cement her escape from the village. I'd use their greed against them, but first, I had to confirm the real letter's fate. I tucked the forged letter into my coat, its falseness a spur to action. The village slept, but my mind was alight. I slipped outside, the night air cool against my skin. The Hart's house, a 2-story symbol of their pension-fueled wealth, loomed at the village's edge. My past life memories guided me to a low wall near their courtyard, where I crouched, ears straining. Voices drifted from an open window, Daniel's, low and tense, and Emily's, sharp with urgency. "Sophie bought it, didn't she?" Emily said, her tone smug. "Your forgery was perfect." Daniel sighed. "She's not as dumb as you think." "If she checks it closely, we're in trouble," Emily laughed, a brittle sound. "Let her try. I'll be at university with the real letter by the time she figures it out." "You're brilliant, Daniel." Their words were a knife, confirming my fears. The real letter was safe and hidden. They planned to use it to steal my future again. I crept back to my house, my heart a furnace of resolve. The forged letter was their first mistake. Their arrogance would be their last. My parents' sacrifice demanded justice, and my rebirth's purpose was clear. I would find the real letter, expose their lies, and burn their dreams to ash. The Harts, Daniel, Emily, they'd underestimated me, but they'd learn. The game was mine to win, and I was just getting started. The Henan village slept under a starless 1977 sky, the air heavy with the scent of earth and betrayal. I stood in the shadows of my mud brick house, the forged recommendation letter tucked inside my coat, a cruel mockery of my parents' sacrifice. My discovery of Daniel's deception, confirmed by his and Emily's smug voices overheard at the Hart's house, had turned my rage into a sharp blade. The real letter, my birthright as the orphan of military heroes, was hidden among Daniel's prized textbooks, destined for Emily's undeserving hands. Reborn with the clarity of my past life's pain, I knew waiting for justice wasn't enough. Tonight, I would take it. My past life memories were a map of Daniel's habits. His south-facing room, stacked with books and papers, was his sanctuary. Emily's words, "By the time she figures it out, I'll be at university," revealed their plan to use the letter to secure her future, leaving me in the fields. The recommendation letter, a rare privilege guaranteeing university admission in China, reborn with college exams, was my parents' blood-inked legacy. I wouldn't let it adorn Emily's life, as in my first life when she'd paraded in silk while I toiled. This time, I'd burn their dreams to ash. I slipped through the village, my bare feet silent on the dirt paths. The Hart's two-story house, built with my parents' pension, loomed at the square's edge. My heart thudded, not with fear but with purpose. In my first life, I'd been too trusting, believing Daniel's lies until my future was dust. Rebirth had taught me that justice sometimes demanded a spark. I carried a small magnifying glass, a tool from the village school, its lens a weapon in my hands. My knack for practical science, honed in years of fieldwork, told me it would work. The noon sun would ignite Daniel's dry papers, refracting through the glass. I crept to the south window of Daniel's room, the shutters ajar. Inside, textbooks lined the shelves, their pages brittle in the summer heat. I positioned the magnifying glass on the sill, angling it to catch the midday sun. My past life knowledge assured me the weather was clear, the room a tinderbox of paper and ambition. The real letter, hidden among those books, would burn with it. I secured the glass with a stone, my hand steady, and stepped back into the shadows. The act felt both wrong and right, a sin to reclaim what was mine. I returned home, the night swallowing my steps. Sleep eluded me, my mind replaying Emily's laugh, Daniel's sigh, and their casual theft of my future. By dawn, I busied myself in the courtyard, hauling water from the well, my eyes darting to the Hart's house. The village stirred, oblivious to the storm I'd set in motion. At noon, the sun climbed high, its rays fierce. I watched from a distance, my heart a tight knot, as a thin wisp of smoke curled from Daniel's window. Then a flicker of orange, a spark catching paper, spreading fast. Shouts erupted. "Fire!" a boy yelled, running through the square. Villagers poured from their homes, buckets in hand, as flames licked the Hart's second floor. I joined the crowd, my face a mask of concern, my pulse racing with cold satisfaction. The fire roared, devouring books, clothes, and, I knew, the real recommendation letter. Daniel burst from the house, his face ashen, his city suit smeared with soot. "My room!" he cried, lunging toward the blaze. Mr. Hart grabbed him, shouting, "It's too late, boy!" Emily arrived, her silk scarf forgotten, her eyes wide with horror. "Daniel, the letter!" she hissed, her voice low but piercing. He shook his head, his expression hollow, as if his soul burned with the flames. The villagers fought the fire, water splashing uselessly against the inferno. The Hart's house, a symbol of their ill-gotten wealth, crumbled, its beams cracking like bones. I stood among the crowd, my heart a paradox of guilt and triumph. I'd taken back what was mine, not with words but fire. The blaze died by dusk, leaving a charred skeleton. The villagers, exhausted, muttered sympathies. "Such a shame," an auntie said. "But they're young, they'll rebuild." I said nothing, my gaze fixed on Daniel. He knelt in the ashes, sifting through blackened pages, his hands trembling. Emily stood frozen, her elegance gone, her future reduced to soot. My past life pain had driven me to this: arson, a crime I'd never imagined. Yet it felt just. The letter, my parents' sacrifice, was no longer theirs to steal. I turned away, the forged letter still in my coat, a reminder of their deceit. The villagers' pity for the Harts would fade, but my work wasn't done. Daniel and Emily would scramble, their plans in ruins, but they'd fight to salvage their ambition. My rebirth's purpose burned brighter, exposing their lies, ensuring their karma, and reclaiming my future. The fire was my first strike, a spark of vengeance to light their downfall. They'd underestimated me, but they'd learn my justice was only beginning. The Henan village buzzed with whispers 2 weeks after the fire that gutted the Hart's house in the summer of 1977. The charred remains stood as a grim reminder of my vengeance, the real recommendation letter, my parents' blood-earned privilege for university admission, reduced to ash with Daniel's books. I, Sophie, reborn with the clarity of a past life's betrayal, had struck first, ensuring Daniel and Emily could not steal my future again. But their ambition, like weeds, clung to life. Today in the village square, they would try to bury me with lies, unaware that my rebirth's purpose was unyielding. I knelt by the well, washing clothes, the forged letter still hidden in my coat. The village had settled into a routine, but tension simmered. Daniel and Emily, now engaged and claiming college acceptances, paraded their triumph, though I knew their plans hinged on a letter that no longer existed. My past life knowledge warned me they'd fight dirty to salvage their dreams. As I scrubbed a shirt, Emily's voice cut through the morning air, sharp and accusing. "Sophie, that cloth in your pocket, don't tell me you stole our 3,500 yuan. I looked up, expressionless, as villagers paused, their buckets clattering. Emily stood with hands on hips. Her silk dresses were a mockery of her feigned outrage. The cloth, a typical pattern sold for 1.8 yuan a meter, was no evidence, but her accusation was a trap. She declared that that was my parents' life savings, pointing at my coat. "Our dog barked all night and the money was gone this morning." A crowd gathered, their eyes flickering between curiosity and suspicion. I'd have faltered in my first life, but rebirth had steeled me. I said I didn't steal anything, my voice flat, rising to my feet. The villagers murmured, some skeptical, others unsure. Emily rushed forward, grabbing my arm. "Then let us search your house. If you're innocent, prove it." Her urgency betrayed her. This was no spontaneous outburst, but a calculated move. My memories flashed, Emily's greed, her desperation to escape the village. With the letter gone, she and Daniel needed to discredit me, to shift the blame for their crumbling plans. Before I could respond, Daniel strode into the square, his face a mask of righteous anger, the village chief at his side. "Chief, I've had enough," he said, his voice loud for the crowd. "Since I ended the engagement and returned Sophie's letter, she's been harassing me. She set the fire that destroyed my room, using this!" He held up a scorched magnifying glass, its lens glinting. "And last night, I saw her sneaking near Emily's house. She stole the money to ruin us." The accusation hit like a thunderclap, the crowd gasping. The magnifying glass was a clever plant tying me to the fire I'd indeed started. My heart raced, but my face remained calm. My rebirth's clarity saw through their scheme. They aimed to frame me, send me to jail, and clear their path. The villagers wavered, some whispering, "Could she have done it?" An auntie frowned. Her parents were heroes. Would she stoop so low? The chief crossed his arms, his stern gaze on me. "Sophie, what do you say?" I met Daniel's eyes, my voice low but resonant. "Spouting lies like that will get you struck by lightning." The sun slipped behind a dark cloud as if on cue, casting the square in shadow. The crowd stirred, uneasy. I turned to the chief, my tone steady. "I didn't steal, and I didn't sneak anywhere. That cloth is standard. Every house has one. And that magnifying glass? Anyone could have placed it. Where's the proof I took the money? My past life knowledge guided me. In 1977, investigations were crude, relying on testimony and flimsy evidence. I'd give them nothing. Emily's face twisted. You're lying. You're jealous of Daniel's success. Her voice cracked, her elegance unraveling. Daniel stepped closer, his eyes cold. I found the glass at your place, Sophie. And I saw you last night. Stop pretending. The crowd's murmurs grew, some swayed by his conviction. A man muttered, 3,500 yuan is a fortune. She could have been tempted. But others hesitated, remembering my parents' sacrifice. I stood taller, my rebirth's resolve a shield. If I'm a thief, search my house. But when you find nothing, what will you say then? The chief nodded, signaling for calm. We'll get the police from town. No one moves until this is settled. Emily smirked, certain her trap would spring. Daniel's jaw tightened, his confidence a thin veneer. I knew their plan. Plant the money in my house, let the police find it, and brand me a criminal. My past life pain fueled my defiance. They'd underestimated me, thinking my orphan status made me weak. But I'd burn their letter, and I'd outmaneuver their lies. As the crowd waited, a timid voice broke the tension. Sophie's parents died for us, an older woman said. Searching her house like this feels wrong. Emily snapped. Wrong? Theft is wrong. Her parents don't give her a free pass. Her venom turned heads, her desperation too raw. I looked at the chief, my eyes clear. Let them search. I've nothing to hide. My calm unnerved Daniel, his fingers twitching. Emily's smirk wavered as if sensing a storm she couldn't control. The square crackled with anticipation, the villagers' trust hanging by a thread. My rebirth's purpose burned. I'd face their lies, turn their trap against them, and ensure their karma. The police would come, and with them, the truth. Daniel and Emily had dug their grave, and I'd watch them fall. The Henan village square simmered with unease in the late morning of 1977, the sky heavy with clouds as if mirroring the weight of Daniel and Emily's accusations. I stood by the well, my patched dress a stark contrast to Emily's silk, as the crowd's murmurs swirled around me. They had accused me of stealing 3,500 yuan and setting the fire that destroyed the Hart's house, and with it the real recommendation letter, my parents' blood-earned privilege for university admission. Their flimsy evidence was a scorched magnifying glass and a standard cloth, a desperate bid to frame me and salvage their crumbling dreams. Reborn with the clarity of my past life's betrayals, I faced them unflinching, knowing their lies would falter. The police from town were moments away, and justice was closer than they knew. Emily's smirk gleamed, her voice sharp. You can't deny it, Sophie. The money's in your house, and we'll prove it. Daniel, his city suit rumpled, held up the magnifying glass, his eyes cold. She's been after me since I ended the engagement. This is her revenge. The villagers wavered, some swayed by their story, others recalling my parents' heroism. The chief, stern but fair, watched me closely. We'll see what the police find, he said. My past life knowledge steadied me. Their plan to plant the money would fail, for I'd ensured my house was clean, but I hadn't expected the ally who would turn the tide. A low rumble broke the tension, a car, rare in our village, rolling through the dirt paths. The crowd parted, and a man stepped out, his uniform crisp, insignia glinting in the dim light. Whispers rippled. Mr. Xiao. I knew him as Uncle Joe, a high-ranking official whose life my parents had saved in battle years ago. My past life memories held his promise. After their death, he'd offered to adopt me, but I'd chosen independence, staying in the village. I'd told him about the stolen letter days ago, trusting his honor. His presence now was no coincidence. It was fate, aligning with my rebirth's purpose. The villagers gaped. Mr. Xiao was a figure from newsreels, not village squabbles. Daniel's face paled, his magnifying glass lowering. Emily's smirk vanished, her hands trembling. Mr. Xiao's gaze swept the square, landing on me with a nod of recognition. I ran to him, my voice soft but clear. Uncle Joe, you came. The crowd gasped. Sophie, the orphan, knew this man? He placed a hand on my shoulder, his voice stern. I'm here for justice. Sophie's parents saved my life and countless others. She wrote to me about her letter. I know her heart, she'd never misuse their legacy. He pulled my letter from his coat, its words a testament to my resolve. This recommendation letter is her birthright, he said, addressing the crowd. Her parents died for it, and I gave it to her myself. She'd guard it like a relic, not lose it or steal to spite others. His words carried the weight of authority, silencing the murmurs. The chief nodded, respect in his eyes. Mr. Xiao, we're investigating a theft. Sophie's accused. Mr. Xiao's gaze hardened, turning to Daniel and Emily. Then let's see the truth. The police arrived, 2 officers stepping from a dusty jeep. Emily, regaining her nerve, pointed at me. Search her house! The money's there! Daniel echoed her, his voice strained. She's guilty, I swear. I met their eyes, my calm a shield forged by rebirth. Go ahead, I said to the officers. I've nothing to hide. My past life knowledge assured me that my house was empty, my tracks covered. The crowd followed as the police entered my home, their boots scuffing the dirt floor. I stood outside, Mr. Xiao at my side, his presence a bulwark against the storm. The officers rummaged through my sparse belongings, straw mattress, chipped bowls, a single coat. Minutes passed, their faces growing puzzled. Nothing, one called, emerging empty-handed. The crowd exhaled, murmurs of doubt rising. Emily's face twisted, her voice shrill. That's impossible, it's there! Daniel's eyes widened, his confidence cracking. Check again, he demanded, but the officer shook his head. The house is clean. No money, no evidence. The villagers' whispers turned to shock. They swore she stole, a man muttered. Maybe they're lying. An auntie clutched her shawl. Her parents were heroes. Why'd we doubt her? Mr. Xiao's voice cut through, calm but piercing. No money, no proof. Yet you accused an orphan of theft and drove her to defend her name. What's your game? He looked at Daniel, then Emily, his gaze ablade. Daniel stammered, I saw her near Emily's house. Emily nodded frantically. The cloth, the glass, it's her! I stepped forward, my voice steady. Did you see me? Where's the money then? That cloth is sold everywhere. And the glass? Planted like your lies. My past life pain fueled my words, each one a strike. The crowd's doubt shifted to Daniel and Emily, their accusations crumbling. Mr. Xiao held up a hand, silencing the square. Sophie's parents gave their lives for this country. She's their daughter, not a thief. But you two, he pointed at Daniel and Emily, your story stinks of deceit. The chief frowned, turning to the officers. We need to investigate further. This smells like a setup. The villagers nodded, their trust in Daniel eroding. Emily's eyes darted, her elegance gone, while Daniel's hands clenched, his plan unraveling. I stood beside Mr. Xiao, my heart steady, my rebirth's purpose clear. Their trap had failed, and justice was dawning. But I knew they'd fight on, their greed a fire not yet extinguished. With Uncle Joe's support, I'd face their next move, ready to bury their lies for good. The Henan village square crackled with anticipation in the gray light of 1977, the clouds above mirroring the storm of accusations. I, Sophie, stood beside Mr. Xiao, the high-ranking official whose life my parents had saved, his presence a shield forged by my letter to him days ago. Daniel and Emily's attempt to frame me for stealing 3,500 yuan had crumbled. The police found nothing in my house, their flimsy evidence of cloth and a scorched magnifying glass exposed as a lie. My rebirth's clarity, honed by a past life of betrayal, had guided me through their trap. The recommendation letter, my parents' blood-earned privilege for university admission, was ash, but their greed would be their undoing. Today, the truth would burn them. Mr. Xiao's voice cut through the murmurs, his insignia glinting as he addressed the crowd. No money, no proof. Yet you accused an orphan of theft and slandered her parents' name. His gaze locked on Daniel, then Emily, their faces pale. If money was stolen from your house, Lou girl, who's the likeliest culprit? He nodded at Daniel, his tone measured but sharp. You two are inseparable. Let's see what's in your bag, Hart. The villagers gasped, their doubts shifting like sand. My past life knowledge pulsed. Daniel's desperation, fueled by the lost letter, had led to this reckless scheme. Daniel's eyes widened, and his city suit creased with sweat. Me? That's absurd, he sputtered, clutching his school bag. Emily stepped forward, her silk dress trembling. He'd never steal. Sophie's the thief. Her voice cracked, her elegance a fading mask. The chief, his face stern, nodded to the police. Search the bag. An officer stepped forward, his boots crunching on the dirt. Daniel hesitated, his hands tightening, but Mr. Xiao's stare forced compliance. The crowd leaned in, the air thick with suspense. The officer unzipped the bag, pulling out a worn textbook. He flipped it open, revealing hollowed-out pages. Inside, wrapped in the same patterned cloth Emily had accused me of stealing, was a thick stack of bills. The officer counted aloud. 3,500 yuan, exactly. The square erupted, villagers shouting in shock. "It's in his bag," an older man cried. "They lied." Daniel's face drained of color, his mouth agape. Emily staggered, her hands covering her face. "No, that's impossible," she gasped, but her panic betrayed her. Mr. Xiao's voice rose, calm but unyielding. "Your name's on the book, Hart, Daniel Grant." He held up the cover, the crowd murmuring in agreement. Daniel shook his head, his voice hoarse. "I didn't. Someone planted it." But the officer's frown silenced him. "This is your bag, your book," he said, producing handcuffs. The villagers' whispers turned to scorn. "Framed her and stole himself," a woman muttered. My heart thrummed with quiet triumph, my rebirth's purpose unfolding. Their trap had turned on them, their greed exposed. Before the police could act, a new voice broke through. "Wait!" A mailman, breathless, pushed into the square, waving a letter. "There's been a mix-up. The college acceptance for Daniel Grant, it's wrong. It's for Daniel Graham, from the next village." The crowd froze, the words a thunderbolt. Daniel's knees buckled, his bag slipping to the ground. Emily's eyes widened, her breath hitching. "What?" she whispered, her dreams crumbling. My past life memories clicked. In my first life, Daniel had scraped into a mediocre college, but this time, distracted by the letter's loss, the fire, and his schemes, he'd failed. The mix-up was fate's cruel jest. Mr. Xiao's gaze hardened, turning to Daniel. No college, no letter, and now theft. "Quite a fall, Hart." He nodded to the officers. "Take him." Daniel struggled as the cuffs snapped on, his voice frantic. "I'm innocent. Sophie framed me." But the crowd's jeers drowned him out. Emily sank to her knees, tears streaking her face, her elegance gone. "It wasn't him," she cried, but her plea rang hollow, her refusal to confess sealing Daniel's fate. I watched, my face impassive, my past life pain a distant echo. They'd tried to bury me, but I'd unearthed their lies. I stepped closer, my voice low, for Emily's ears alone. "You planned this together, didn't you? Framing me, stealing my future. But lies burn, just like that letter." Her eyes met mine, wide with fear, but she said nothing, clutching the cloth-wrapped money. My rebirth's clarity saw her choice. She'd protect herself, let Daniel take the fall. The villagers' voices rose, some pitying her, others condemning them both. "What a shame," an auntie said. "I thought they were our golden phoenixes." But I knew better. Greed, not talent, had driven them. Mr. Xiao turned to me, his voice soft. "You've endured enough, Sophie. Your parents would be proud." I nodded, my throat tight. The letter was gone, but my fight wasn't over. Daniel's arrest was justice's first spark, but Emily's silence hid her guilt. My past life knowledge, a flame kindled by rebirth, would guide me to expose her to ensure their karma was complete. The police led Daniel away, his shouts fading, while Emily stood frozen, a shadow of her former self. The square buzzed with shock, but I felt only resolve. The truth had ignited, and I'd fan its flames. The Henan village square pulsed with raw energy in the dimming light of 1977, the clouds parting to reveal a cold, unyielding sun. I, Sophie, stood beside Mr. Xiao, the high-ranking official whose presence had turned the tide against Daniel and Emily's lies. The police found 3,500 yuan in Daniel's bag, exposing his attempt to frame me for theft, while a mailman's revelation that Daniel's college acceptance was a mix-up shattered his golden future. The recommendation letter, my parents' blood-earned privilege for university admission, was ash, but my rebirth's clarity had ignited their downfall. Now, as Daniel stood handcuffed, Emily's silence hung like a noose, and I was ready to close the circle of justice. Daniel's eyes, wild with panic, locked on Emily, who knelt in the dirt, her silk dress stained, her elegance a memory. "Emily, say something," he shouted, his voice cracking. "Tell them we didn't plan this. Tell them Sophie framed me." The crowd, once swayed by his charm, now jeered, their voices a chorus of scorn. "Liar!" an older man spat. "You shamed her parents' name?" My memories burned. Daniel's betrayal, Emily's smug triumph as she claimed my letter in my first life. Rebirth had given me this moment, and I would seize it. Emily clutched the cloth-wrapped money, her hands trembling, her face a mask of fear. I... I don't know anything, she stammered, her voice barely audible. The money was gone from our house, that's all I know. The lie was her shield, a choice to save herself at Daniel's expense. His face contorted, betrayal mirroring the pain he'd inflicted on me. What? You gave me that money. You said we'd pin it on her. The crowd gasped, their doubt cementing into certainty. Emily shook her head, tears streaming. No, Daniel, I didn't. I stepped forward, my voice low but piercing, for Emily alone. You planned this together, didn't you? The cloth, the glass, the money, all to send me to jail and steal my future again. Her eyes met mine, wide with terror, but she stayed silent, her refusal to confess a final act of cowardice. My past life pain, once a wound, was now a weapon. I turned to Daniel, my gaze unyielding. My parents' letter was never yours to take. You burned your dreams when you chose greed. The villagers' murmurs grew, their judgment falling like stones. She's no phoenix, a woman whispered, eyeing Emily, just a schemer. Mr. Xiao raised a hand, his voice commanding silence. Enough. Daniel Grant, you're under arrest for theft and slander. As for you, he fixed Emily sternly, your silence speaks volumes. The police will investigate further. No one escapes justice. The officers nodded, jotting notes and tightening Daniel's cuffs. Emily swayed, her knees buckling, but no one moved to help her. Daniel's mother pushed through the crowd, her face twisted with rage. My son's no thief, she cried, turning to Emily's parents, who stood at the edge, their faces grim. Your daughter dragged him into this. Make her tell the truth. Emily's father, the village secretary, shook his head, his voice cold. We didn't raise a thief. That boy's trouble. The betrayal was complete, families turning on each other, their alliance shattered by greed. Emily sobbed, her hands clutching the money, a lifeline slipping away. I faced Mr. Xiao, my heart steady, my rebirth's purpose clear. Thank you, Uncle Joe, I said softly. My parents would be glad you're here. He nodded, his eyes warm but resolute. You fought well, Sophie. Your parents' honor lives in you. His words, tied to the promise he'd made after their death, to protect me, grounded his role in my fight. The letter, though gone, had served its purpose. It had exposed the Harts and Emily's true natures, paving my path to freedom. The chief stepped forward, addressing the crowd. This village trusted the wrong people. Sophie's parents were heroes. We owe her better. The villagers nodded, some ashamed, others angry at the Harts. I looked at Emily, her face buried in her hands, and Daniel, his head bowed as the police led him to the jeep. I said you thought you could break me, my voice carrying over the square, but my parents' strength runs deeper than your lies. The crowd fell silent, my words a final seal on their defeat. Mr. Xiao turned to me, his voice low. Come with me, Sophie. There's nothing left for you here. I nodded, my past life knowledge a beacon. Once my prison, this village held no future. The letter's loss was a wound, but my rebirth was a greater gift. I'd use it to forge a life beyond these fields, free of the Hart's shadow. As the police car's engine roared, Daniel's shouts faded, Emily's sobs a faint echo. The villagers watched, their faces a mix of awe and regret, as I followed Mr. Xiao to his car. I paused, glancing back at the square, the well, the charred Hart's house. My past life's pain had burned away, replaced by resolve. Daniel and Emily had dug their graves, and karma had filled them. With Mr. Xiao's support, I'd leave this cold, heartless village, my parents' honor, my guide. The fight was over, but my journey was beginning. I stepped into the car, the door closing on my past, my heart alight with the promise of a new dawn. The Henan village faded into the dust behind Mr. Xiao's car, its dirt paths and charred Hart's house a memory as I left in the summer of 1977. Once a stage for Daniel and Emily's lies, the square held no claim on me now. I, Sophie, reborn with the clarity of a past life's betrayal, had reclaimed my honor, exposing their attempt to frame me for theft and ensuring the recommendation letter, my parents' blood-earned privilege for university admission, could never be theirs. With Mr. Xiao, the official whose life my parents saved, by my side, I looked to a future unburdened by the past. My rebirth was my greatest gift, and I would wield it to soar. 3 months later, news reached me through Aunt Lily, a kind villager who'd housed me during the turmoil. I sat in a modest Nanjing apartment, a scholarship student at a university, my desk piled with books on economics and urban planning. Aunt Lily's letter, scrawled in careful strokes, detailed the village's reckoning. Daniel Grant, convicted of theft and slander, had been sentenced to 7 years in prison. His dreams of city glory, built on my stolen letter, were now confined to a cell. Emily Liu, complicit in the framing scheme, received 2 years, her elegance stripped in a gray uniform. The Harts, Daniel's parents, faced a year and a half for embezzling my parents' pension, their once proud house a ruin they couldn't afford to rebuild. Aunt Lily wrote of Emily's fate after her release. Her parents, desperate to recover their losses, forced her into marriage with a butcher from a neighboring village, trading her for a bride price to fund her brother's wedding. The girl who'd dreamed of soaring in silk now trudged through a life of drudgery, her ambition buried in a stranger's kitchen. Daniel's end was bleaker. Released after his sentence, his mind fractured by guilt and failure, he wandered the streets muttering, "I'm Professor Grant. Pay $1 million to see me." The villagers pitied him, a fallen phoenix reduced to madness. I set the letter down, my heart steady, my past life pain a faint scar. The recommendation letter, though burned, had served its purpose. It exposed the Hart's greed, Daniel's deceit, and Emily's treachery, clearing my path. My parents' sacrifice, a 1977 privilege that promised an education in China reborn with exams, had been my anchor, even in its absence. Mr. Xiao's support, rooted in his debt to my parents, had been my bridge to this new life. After leaving the village, he'd secured me a scholarship, his stern kindness a reminder of their honor. "Your parents would want you to thrive," he'd said, handing me the university papers. I'd smiled, needing no further aid. My rebirth was enough. My past life knowledge, a tapestry of decades lived, was my true wealth. In my first life, I'd toiled in the fields, but I'd watched China's transformation from afar, the economic reforms of the 1980s and the real estate boom of the 1990s. As a student, I studied market trends, memorized policies, and sketched plans for urban projects. After graduation, I took a clerk's job at a state-owned construction firm, where my insights into land auctions and zoning laws earned rapid promotions. By my late 20s, I'd founded a real estate company, investing in coastal cities like Shenzhen, where skyscrapers would soon rise. My past life foresight, knowing which regions would boom, which policies would shift, made me a tycoon, my name whispered in boardrooms, my wealth a kingdom of my own making. I stood at my apartment window, Nanjing's skyline a canvas of possibility. With its petty schemes and cold hearts, the village was a distant echo. Daniel, Emily, and the Harts had sought to steal my future, but karma had been relentless. Their greed had chained them to ruin, while my rebirth had set me free. I thought of my parents, their faces vivid in my past life memories, their sacrifice, the spark that lit my path. The letter, though gone, lived in my resolve, a testament to their love. Mr. Xiao's last letter lay on my desk, offering help if I ever faltered. I smiled, folding it away. My rebirth was the most extraordinary shortcut life could offer. Why would I need more? The university's halls, alive with ideas, were my new village, the city's pulse, my new rhythm. I'd built this life not on handouts, but on knowledge, grit, and the fire of a second chance. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky gold, I felt my parents' pride, a warmth no betrayal could dim. My new dawn had risen, and I would never look back.